Send in the clowns. Those daffy, laughy clowns. Send in those soulful and doleful schmaltz by the bowlful clowns. They're already here. On a list that Michael Hamflet has written for me. It's Doinks, best and worst. He's a clown. Sometimes he's good, sometimes he's not. What more do you want? I'm Jules, this is What Culture. Let's get on with it. Number 10, Money in the Bank Doink 2020. Oh, this was really bad, wasn't it? This was just like the fly that was on the mountain of shit that was this entire pay-per-view match. Oh my god. Him poking out from the back of this chair was just embarrassing. He didn't even have the right shirt on. It was just like they'd gone, that looks good enough. Do you want me to put a shirt on? No. Ridiculous. As evidenced by Paul Heyman, Bruce Pritchard, John Laurinaitis, and Vince McMahon being some of the only in real life cameos available to the company, WWE were as thin on the ground personnel-wise as much as they were creatively when crafting their first major cinematic effort since WrestleMania's well-received Boneyard and Firefly Funhouse matches. This was every kind of awful clown show, in spite of the reasonably massive stakes. Money in the Bank was the shambolic opposite of all there was to love about the show of shows matches, in spite of all of the tremendous potential it had. It was a shit idea, shit execution, and a shit doink. A pie in the face would be a waste of a pie. Number 9, The Bushwhackers. I do not understand Vince McMahon. I mean, what he did right here with the Bushwhackers one is he took his, at the time, most recent gimmick idea and gave it to one of his oldest. Why? Luke and Butch were in their late 40s and actually felt even older as characters when they were given the wigs and face paint as part of a match that had a certain unique charm in the planning stages, but that all fell apart when the execution rendered it as one of the all-time WWE duds. It had been a year of multiple doinks thanks to the clown using the device to hassle Crush Bra, shout out OSW by the way, and like everything else about the act, that element was knackered when he turned babyface, but the company persisted anyway. New rival Bam Bam Bigelow and his team were set on to take 4 doinks in a Survivor Series match. This is the thing, it actually turned out to be 0 doinks because at this point in time, the WWE had just classified it as, well, if you're wearing grease paint and a wig, you are doink. And the original doink was nowhere to be found. What was going on with this match? It is arguably one of the worst matches in WWF/WWE history. And that's saying something. But you know what, friends? They weren't the only ones there that night. Number 8, Men on a Mission. So, this is the thing. Mabel and Mo, they were never going to be superstars that were going to be remembered in the annals of time as the all-time greats, really. As much as I do love Big Daddy V, I mean, that's just a personal preference there. But the thing is, they deserved better than this. Joining forces with the Bushwhackers as part of Doink's aforementioned scheme to wind up Bam Bam Bigelow, the team formed part of the Survivor Series unit that managed to achieve the somewhat rare feat of surviving an elimination tag without actually losing a team member. Presumably that was the pitch that came either just before or slightly after the "we do need you to look like total f***wits tonight." The weird thing about this match is that if you actually Google it, if you look for the 4 Doinks match, you'll actually see some static images that make it look good, and these, therefore, are cursed images because they lie to you. If you were to ever watch a single iota of this match, you would realise that it was a slow as molasses, absolute chugger of a match that should not be viewed under any circumstances. Delete it from your memory banks. I'm sorry for reminding you of it right now. Although actually, there was one thing that this match did manage to achieve that actually the real doinks, and I use that term loosely, actually didn't. And that is that whenever you look at Mo and Mabel smiling in the doink costume face paint, it looks so sinister that not even Matt Bourne could have recreated that level of pure dread. But that's the only positive thing I have to say about this. Number 7, Ray Apollo. Now, you kind of have to feel sorry for Ray Apollo because he inherited the doink gimmick when it was, well and truly dead and still beyond the point of WWF just beating it even further. Yeah, sad times. Apollo's take on the gimmick may as well be included alongside fake Razor Ramon and Diesel in terms of legitimacy. WWE had a gimmick, had the legal rights to it, and decided to slap another wrestler in it. Now, time has been kinder to this than those imposters, but the footage highlights the company's growing disinterest towards the persona as well. As 1993 morphed into 1994, Doink got battered on every major pay-per-view that he actually got to appear in. Only in a popcorn feud with Jerry Lawler, and more on that shortly, did you get to see any kind of feature spot before being persistently phased down the card until the edgier end of 1995 aged him a decade and about a month. Now, it's been said that gimmicks sell t-shirts, that characters sell t-shirts, but you know what? This sold none of them. Number 6, Steve Lombardi. Now, it's always a hard act to follow when you are basically the second comer to fill in the oversized clown shoes of Matt Bourne, but Steve Lombardi gave it a fair shake. It's just a shame that he was shaking a stick full of shit at the face of the audience. That seems unbelievably mean. Lombardi played the role as recently as 2012 during an angle that saw Heath Slater challenging old stars in the run-up to Raw 1000, but it was as charmless then as it had been nearly 2 decades earlier. So you see, much like Apollo, Lombardi was beating a dead horse with the character working babyface, but Bourne's technical wrestling ability gave credence as to why a clown was in the ring. It was a facade, not a lifestyle choice, but that wasn't the case by 1994 and beyond, because the WWF told us that he was literally a clown who just happened to wrestle, not the other way around. And for that reason alone, it made it so much weirder and that much worse. Number 5, Dink, Wink, and Pink. So Dink was added to the Doink stable, as it were, as a means to help him turn babyface, which I guess, fine, that's a move you want to go with, but the problem is that it forever tarnished the idea of what Doink was. But the man behind the slightly smaller mask, Tiger Jackson, had worked with the company on and off for a decade before he got the Dink role, including a bizarre spell as Randy Savage's sidekick, the Macho Midget, during a period where the Macho Man was mostly relegated to the announce booth anyway. Now, the reason that he was paired up with Doink was because Vince McMahon wanted to soften any remaining jagged edges of the Doink persona. The character, therefore, was stretched further when the company decided to book 4 Doinks at the Survivor Series for the 2nd year in a row, or technically 1 and 3 smaller versions against Jerry Lawler and his own miniature King's Court. And this is the weird thing. This match only has 1 good spot in it. Think about the amount of potential that you've got here, and only 1 good spot. And that was when Jerry Lawler got on the backs or shoulders of one of his King's Court members and tried to do a chicken fight thing, and collapsed and fell straight on his smug, stupid face. Well, I thought it was funny anyway. Number 4, Chris Jericho. So in 2001, Chris Jericho dressed up as Doink so that he could sneak attack William Regal before their match at WrestleMania X7. And you know what? I'm not going to criticize Chris Jericho because he is still the all-time greatest wrestler or banter machine I've ever seen. However, he did have to dress up as Doink. And it did confuse Shawn Michaels, who was completely drug-addled at the time and just got very upset that the WWF had given him the gimmick, which at that point shows you that if a man who is so coked out of his noggin can look at that and say, you've been dealt a bad hand, that's how the gimmick was at that point. So in that weird respect, Chris Jericho's up here, Doink's down here, it kind of averages out. I don't make the rules. Number 3, Steve Keirn. So this is another case of the WWF/WWE having multiple Doinks on the same show at the same time. And you know what though, Big Steve, well, he actually gets a bit of a pass, but just because of the fact of how this was introduced. Bobby Heenan's call of his very presence being a Las Vegas illusion during the pair of Doink's assault on Crush at WrestleMania 9 captured the intentionally wicked humour of the bit. Playing with vaudeville, grifting and stage magic alongside the original clown persona, WWE gave the shithouse heel an added weapon in his feud with the Giant Hawaiian, a psychopathic doppelganger. I mean, go back and watch this spot where they do the mirror gag. It's really campy and silly, but at the same time, it's brilliant. It's really fun and in keeping with the character. But still, the best bit about all of this is that, if I remember correctly, there was like a backstage segment where Doink's in his dressing room and they're trying to hound him saying, was there multiple Doinks? Was there multiple Doinks? And they go, no, there's definitely not. And the other Doink walks into the dressing room when they've got their backs turned. And they're like, what? I thought it was really funny. But yeah, side note, this was the only time that this worked. Number 2, Jeff Jarrett. So this was the closest that Doink ever came to actually being, well, Doink again after his babyface turn, when Jeff Jarrett dressed up as him and absolutely obliterated Dink. It was... it's one of those things where it's quite hard to watch, but not as hard as to watch as listening to Vince McMahon pretending that he doesn't love it. He's just like, oh, that's really awful, but you can tell he's just like, oh, do it again, do it again, do it again, do it again. The clown had made a fool of the country music star, resulting in Jarrett somehow stealing his clothes and obliterating his miniature mate with silly string and 2 massive custard pies in the face until poor Dink fell off an interview platform. Covered in detritus, he whimpered off as the crowd seemed genuinely appalled with this act of unsolicited cruelty until Double J cinematically revealed his long flowing blonde locks underneath the green wig. Ending the skit, Jarrett said that he would do even worse to Dink if he ever saw him again. And for that moment, as appalling and horrible as it was, Doink was a legitimate threat again. It's just a shame that as soon as he removed and revealed that it was Jeff Jarrett, that it was completely gone. The persona had not actually changed whatsoever, but still, for that moment, Doink. Ooh, making kids cry. And number 1, Matt Bourne. He's the original and the best. He was the truly evil clown. And it actually takes a lot of work to get something like this right. He was an unbelievable worker in this role and an absolutely tremendous working heel because his grasp of the craft ensured that the commentators could note his skill bell to bell, which made clear the crucial difference between a wrestling clown and a clown that wrestles. Like all good horror characters, it was about the terror that lurked below the paint rather than what the audience could see at first. Contests with Randy Savage, Marty Jannetty, and especially Bret Hart at SummerSlam 1993 are work-rate must-watch matches for the year. So yeah, you can see why the WWE wanted to chase this image after Matt Bourne had left the role, but they did it in such bizarre and stupid ways that it completely changed what Doink was. Because what Doink is, to a classic WWF fan, is absolutely terrifying. He's it the clown that could put you in a sleeper hold. No thank you. And there we go, my friends. That was every Doink ranked worst to best. I hope that you enjoyed that, my friends, and let me know what you thought about it down in the comments section below. As always, I've been Jules. You can go follow me on Twitter at RetroJ, or you can swing by Live and Let's Dice as my personal gaming channel where I stream every single Wednesday and Sunday. But before I go, my friends, I just want to say one thing. You, my friend, are not a clown. You deserve love, happiness, and success. And I hope that you are achieving those tenets of life. But if you are not, then please do not worry about it, because with friends, family, professionals in the support industry, you can be helped along the way to live a healthier and happier life. They might not be the right routes for you, but that is always an option available to you. I wish nothing but the best. Big love from me to you, you massive ledge. As always, I've been Jules. You have been awesome. Never forget that. I'll speak to you soon. Peace.